Well, hello there, and welcome to this edition of Thought for the Week. It's always a pleasure to be with you. We're still basking in the aftermath of Christmas, aren't we? And of course, Epiphany is about now. Epiphany, the visit of the wise men. That's the traditional name for it. And it's a Greek name meaning showing forth. The idea being that the wise men's visit demonstrates that the glory of Jesus was shown forth to Gentiles who'd travelled from a distant land. Now, these wise men are very, very interesting men. We're told that wise men came from the east. Notice there isn't a number given. But if you were to suggest that there was anything other than 3 wise men, you'd get shot down in flames. Similarly, if you were to suggest that they weren't kings, you'd get shot down in flames. Because tradition says, no, there were 3 kings. And we even know their names: Belshazzar, Caspar, and Melchior. Where do we get that from? Certainly nowhere in the New Testament. No. It simply says wise men from the east came to see Jesus. One of our friends has a little girl. And he was talking to her one day about yeast, you know, the stuff you put in bread. He was talking about it in the setting of the Passover, when Hebrew women scoured their homes to try and find any yeasted flour there was to get it out of the house, because yeast is a type representation of sin. And so at Passover, all that had to be removed. And he said to his little girl, "Darling, you know what the yeast is, don't you?" She said, "Of course I do, Daddy. It's where the wise men came from." Not quite. The yeast, yeah, close but not quite right. He went on to explain what it was. But it's interesting, isn't it, that we're told in Matthew, wise men from the east came. East of where? East of London? East of New York? East of Reykjavik? East of where? Well, we're dealing with Israel. We're dealing with Jerusalem. We're dealing with Bethlehem. So east of Jerusalem. That's the east we're to look at. And so if you were to take a measurement due east from Jerusalem, you would end up in Iran, Iraq area. Mesopotamia, as we call it, the land between the 2 rivers, where Babylon was located. So it's a possibility that these wise men were wise men who came from Babylon. Babylon? But there was so little there in the days of Jesus. Well, that's true. The greatness of Babylon was well and truly over, but there was still a colony of Jewish people living there. Many of them who didn't return to Jerusalem after the exile. They stayed put, establishing family life, establishing business life, having a thoroughly good life. But amongst these men and women who were living in Babylon at that time, there were scholars, great Jewish scribes who gave themselves to the study of the scriptures. And they also considered the movement of the planets to be interesting. Not as occultists, astrologers, reading people's fortunes from the stars, not at all. Because you see, it was the birth of Jesus that influenced the star, not the star that influenced the birth of Jesus. But these were scholars who travelled from ancient Babylon thousands of miles all across wild desert wastes in order to discover the Messiah, Jesus Christ the Lord. What an extraordinary journey, and what an extraordinary fact. Well, we better talk a bit more about this next time, I think. But for now, bye-bye, and the Lord bless you. Goodbye for now.